Right, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're enjoying the conference so far. Our session is going to be very, very interesting because I've got some fantastic panelists. There's been a lot of publicity recently on business travel, not least because Ryanair and Kenny, who's one of our panelists, have launched Business Plus. So it gets everyone going when Ryanair launches something new. So it's very fitting that we have this session here today. Our objective with our time here is to share some of the thinking around mixed distribution strategies and whether a low-cost carrier can meet the needs of the business traveller. So with that, I'll invite up my panelists. So firstly, we have Kenny Jacobs. Kenny is the Chief Marketing Officer for Ryanair. I'm sure many of you heard him speak this morning, but it's quite interesting in this industry because Kenny is coming from the retail space, and we always, for years, as long as I can remember, have been talking about how we should look at retail, particularly in the ancillary space, but also across the airline, the aviation sector. Then I've got Julio Rodriguez. He's the Chief Commercial Officer of Vueling. And what's great about Vueling is they're so innovative and they're always looking for new products, and they like to do things a little bit differently, sort of similar to Apple, really. We have Güliz Öztürk, who's the CCO of Pegasus Airlines. Güliz is one of the sharpest minds in the industry, which is great because she's also female, and there's not many of us. So that's fantastic. So welcome, Güliz. We've Aidan Brogan, who's the CEO of Datalex. I'm sure you're all very familiar here with Datalex, but Datalex is a very forward-thinking business providing distribution channels which are second to none in the industry, simply because they probably know your customer better than you know your customer yourself. We have Decius Valmorbida, who's the VP Distribution Marketing for Amadeus IT Group. And what's interesting about Decius is his views around personalization. So I'm hoping that we can discuss that a little bit around the business customer focus that we have today. So if you'd like to join me, panel. Just two other things that I'd just like to mention because I just think it'll make for more dynamic conversation given that it's an afternoon session. So if you wouldn't mind awfully asking questions throughout the session, as the audience, I'm not really going to do the question and answer session at the end unless you don't ask any question, but feel free to ask the panelists questions as and when something comes into your mind during the session. And the second thing is I'm inviting my panelists to also ask each other questions because I think it'll keep things interesting. Okay, so thank you. Okay, so really just to kick us off really, Güliz, I'd just like to ask you a little bit because you've changed the distribution strategy over the last couple of years, and really just be interested to know how that is working for you, and what we can learn from that, and how it has impacted the business, your business customer.
Sinead, thanks for the question. But first, I think I have to mention that since our start in 2005, we have designed a multi-channel strategy. So for us, when we first started, it was not only online. Of course, the focus was online. I mean, web at that time. Mobile was not as developed as today. Web and our call center was our direct channels. But we had started an agency portal, so that multi-channel strategy was there. And then within 2-3 years, we added the GDS into our channels. And the important part was this, and the basic principle was we had designed a relationship with the GDSs in a way that we would always be free to do in terms of pricing, because there are different types of agreements with the GDSs where you have to live with, in terms of pricing, live with the principles they put in front of you. So, I mean, when we had designed this multi-channel strategy, our organization is, in a way, designed, which would meet the needs of this. We did so because Istanbul is located in a way, in a position that it has an advantage of having connecting traffic. So as a low-cost carrier, we have also a connecting traffic, which is considerable amount. So we call ourselves low-cost network carrier, for example. And GDSs and agencies are important in terms of both different traffic mixes and the business traffic also. So, and from the first day, we have seen this need, and we may be the first to start with a multi-channel strategy in this model.
Yes, it certainly sounds that way. What year did you say, Guliz, it was?
It was 2007.
2007, yeah. Yeah.
Since then, now we work with the 3 GDSs.
But
we have our agencies in all the markets.
But it was very much dependent because of your market, around your marketplace, whereas other airlines in Europe would have had, I suppose, not so much the focus as much on, more the focus on the web and less focus on the travel agencies from about the year 2000. Whereas the Turkish market,
yeah, of course, I mean, internet penetration, e-commerce penetration is lower than the European markets. That's true.
And has that early planning enabled you to capture the business traveler in a way that other airlines might not?
What helped us is this. I mean, to get because for business, if you have that business segment, you may have also your network planning accordingly. Because we, for example, focused more on to have frequencies to the main hubs in Europe, for example. And without getting the business traffic, you may not have that amount of frequencies into those markets. So when we see that there is the business traffic needed for a destination, then you should be providing the channels where you can get that traffic. But of course, the cost side is important because it's too costly. We know that. I mean, online is the cheapest one, so our cheapest fares are on online. And if any business customer would like to buy from an agency or through GDSs, then they bear the cost of it.
Yeah, so they pay a premium.
They pay, yeah.
Julio, how does that compare with what you're doing at Vueling or have been doing historically at Vueling?
Well, it looks like 2007 was an important year. 2007 was also the year where we stopped selling exclusively through our website and we started implementing a multi-channel strategy, meaning we are selling through GDS since 2007. Today we have a well-equilibrated, healthy distribution mix. Our website, Vueling.com, we're selling through the 4 relevant GDS in Europe. We're selling through our code shares and interline agreements, and so on. So 2007 was an important year. We're talking about it now, 2014, but it's quite some time ago, right?
Exactly. So, and why the change then in 2007 for you?
Obviously, because we understood that we wanted to go after the high-yield customers. We understood that you cannot expect them to change their habits. You have to put your product wherever they are looking for it, or they are expecting it. We did it step by step because we had a lot of time to do it, as nobody else was following us. I mean, Pegasus was maybe doing it, but we were in completely different markets. So we had a lot of time. We were very cautious, taking care of our costs, avoiding any mistakes. And for us, for example, very important is, as well as for Pegasus, the fact that we are a real non-full content player. That is very important. That is worth a fortune.
Are you a bit surprised that it's taken Ryanair so long to segment in this way and offer, given the high yields that can be generated?
No, I mean, to be honest, Ryanair has been very, very successful in doing what they have been doing over the last years. We were in a very competitive environment. Our 2 home markets, Spain and Italy, are very competitive. Most airlines fail to succeed in those markets. We are the only South European airline, at least from until, well, South Europe up to Greece, that is profitable. And in order to be profitable, you have to be very competitive. You have to have a very low cost base, but you also need to be an alternative for flag carriers, and that's Welling.
Okay, very good. Are you concerned about Ryanair launching? You and Gulas, are you concerned about Ryanair's Business Plus product?
I mean, we'll see if it's smart to call it Business Plus or not, because obviously, on the one hand side, it's smart because everybody believes Ryanair has a business class. On the other hand, we all know it is not a business class. Actually, I think you said it this morning. It's a bundled fare. It might be the right way for them to go. I'm not sure. Definitely, they are doing it. They are moving pretty quickly. For us, it is important to move. Well, not sure if quicker, but smarter, definitely. Not concerned. I mean, we are all competing. A little bit more competition is good for everybody.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, good. Thanks very much, Kenny. A little bit interested to hear how Business Plus is working, and probably why it took so long for Ryanair to launch a business product, but also a little bit around the cost, because I know how cost-focused Ryanair is as a business, and how it's impacting costs. Is it impacting costs?
Okay, so just to go through those in slightly different order, in terms of why did it take so long, there was other things to do that were delivering great numbers, so it wasn't such a priority, and we are a consumer business. It was about expanding the routes, it was about delivering great numbers for shareholders and growing Ryanair. So there wasn't a necessity and there wasn't a burning ambition to just do what everyone else is doing. Ryanair is a brand and a business that is not based on let's do what the others do. We take an opposite view quite often. To a point, now we're doing things that were on our list of things we never said we'd do. And that's, we're doing a lot of things like going back on GDS with the Travelport partnership that we kicked off in springtime. There will be a second GDS partnership before the end of the year. So no real big reason why we took so long to do it. I think we took the right time for the Ryanair business to launch it. In terms of the thinking behind the product, yes, it's not classic business class because we don't believe in that. That's kind of back to what we call the old world of high cost travel. So it's a straightforward product. We know business travelers and their needs really, really well. I think people kind of need to move beyond the Heathrow, Schiphol, Charles de Gaulle world of looking at business class. If you go to Bergamo, a huge airport in northern Italy every week, you will see lots of people traveling with Ryanair all across Europe who are business people, because we're the right choice, we're the most reliable choice, we've got the best fares. So we know the needs of the business traveller. There is an up-and-coming type of savvy business traveller who wants a reliable service, wants to pay the least amount of money, and wants to know that they will get there on time and get through airports quickly. I will fly back to Dublin this evening from Gatwick, going through fast track at both airports if I want to, knowing the flight's going to be on time, knowing that I've booked it quite late, but I'm paying less than 80 euros. That's kind of what matters to me as a business traveller community of one. So it's got the things in its, and this is the launch product. We can add to it over time. It's got the things that our business travellers have said that they wanted, as in for people who travel regularly, get me through the airports quickly, get me on the plane first if that's what I'm into, get me off the plane first if that's what I'm into, just make my travel more efficient and keep the costs down. So since we've launched it a few weeks ago, we've got over 4,000 bookings a day, which is a good number if you kind of think that we're still kind of coming off the summer. We haven't kicked into our winter schedule. Our strategy for winning more with business customers is not just about Business Plus. It's massively connected to how we distribute the product through GDS, because that's the way they operate, and also through the network that we operate and the schedule that we have on that network. So this winter, we will be putting other airlines under pressure, because people will be going from Dublin to Madrid, to Barcelona, to Lisbon, to Brussels, Zaventem, to Glasgow International, at key times of day for business travellers, with fast track at those airports. So the business product, those primary airports, that schedule is the mix that basically says, if you're a business who is conscious about your money, and which business likes to waste money nowadays, I don't know, but why would you be sat on a flight other than a Ryanair flight if we're operating on that schedule, and you will save money? So that's kind of typically Ryanair. That's kind of what's gone into the product. We will launch things, we will learn from them, we'll ask business customers, what else would you like from us? And there are some interesting things that we may add to it at a point in time. But that's a bit around the product. We're happy with it so far, and it will only get better once that winter schedule kicks off, particularly with those key city pairs. And our distribution strategy, which has widened because of the Travelport partnership, which will widen again with the second GDS, is the plan we have.
And the costs?
If you look at the on cost of doing it, it doesn't add any operational cost. Yes, if you negotiate a fast track through certain airports, there's a cost associated with that. But we're not. If you look at the breakdown of the product, it's a bundled offering of some of the features that we have with fast track added at key airports. So it is not a massive on cost to us. We're not putting some of the usual trappings that you would get with traditional business class.
Sure. Okay. So if I understand you correctly, you're doing it for the current business customers that you already have, and you're doing it to get more business through the GDSs.
Yeah, some people, the biggest thing we believe business travelers want is just a flexible ticket. Sometimes my plans will change. I was booked on an earlier flight back from Gatwick today, but my plans change, so you can just get on a later flight. If you're traveling frequently on very short hops, the ability to change the ticket and get through airports, talking to our customers, are the things they want the most. If you travel once a month on business, you probably want the blue curtain, you probably want the lounge, you probably want the trappings of traditional business class. But I think everyone here who travels quite a bit, it's about the device which is in your hand, which is keeping you constantly glued to that. It's no longer about airports. It's no longer about the usual things that people got with business class. It's just about efficient travel, which allows you that flexibility. And what we've introduced, the biggest aspect of the product, is the flexibility that you can change the ticket up until an hour before departure. You can even change the ticket and even check in at the airport. So it's giving the ultimate flexibility that the very frequent business traveler is looking for.
Okay, thanks very much. Aidan, that brings me nicely on to the next question, which is actually centered around one of your clients who's very innovative and transformative, particularly in this space, and that's JetBlue. I wonder if you just, having heard our three airline speakers here speak, I wonder if you just elaborate on what JetBlue is doing in this area. And
okay, Sinead. I suppose rightly or wrongly, we've invested over $50 million building an airline retailing solution or product, integrating the various airline legacy systems with the current and future consumer, very much putting the customer at the focus. In terms of our customers, I'll talk about JetBlue in a minute, but we've a long list, and I'm proud to say that Brussels Airlines is our most recent customer. So brusselsairlines.com now is utilising the Datalex solution, following on from airlines like WestJet in Canada and Aer Lingus. I suppose if I specifically look at JetBlue, 30 million passenger airline, 80% book online. Their gross revenue is in the region of $5 billion. It's a stated objective that they significantly want to grow their top line revenue and, more importantly, their margin. And they want to do that through merchandising and retailing, presenting the right offer, relevant offer, tailored offer to the consumer across any digital channel. So whether they're checking in, whether it's a smartphone, whether it's a tablet, whether it's a kiosk, following a fairly lengthy sort of selection process that included building it themselves because they've got a lot of money, and they've a lot of ambition, and they've a strong brand. And following that process, they selected us. We're now midway through. We'll be live starting next year. And I think it's really, really exciting. I suppose the fundamental I suppose strategy at Datalex is focus on the consumer behaviour now, and the consumer behaviour into the future. And I'll be quite honest with you, the future consumer, watch your kids, your teenagers, they have a very short attention span. They want relevant information. They want it presented to them now. It needs to be tailored to their demands at that moment in time. And all of the complexity that exists in the airline industry is just a barrier, and we just need to, get over it and move on.
okay, thanks very much. Decius, My next question is for you, actually, and it's around, I mean, do you think that there are any significant barriers to serving business travelers that are compatible with the low-cost model?
So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for the invitation. Obstacles for the business traveler. Look, the business traveler is looking to very similar solutions as the leisure traveler when they're shopping, which is they are interested in having all options displayed in front of them and having the possibility to select what they want at the time they want. So in that sense, I think it is no different when we're discussing about distribution. I think there is plenty of debate amongst different competitive strategies, different players in the industry of how the guy who pays the bill and how we split the money from the guy who pays the bill. So meaning how much stays with the technology provider, the travel agency, and I think the landscape is becoming even more complex. So today we are discussing a mixed distribution strategy, having a direct channel and a travel agency in mind. We have many other players coming. We have corporates that are building their own in-house systems in how they want to procure travel. We have corporate travel IT companies that provide suites coming from the expense management and offering that to big corporate. You have SME corporations that are pretty much exposed to the same channels as the leisure. So I think as you think about being in all those interfaces, I think this distribution strategy discussion is we are just at the beginning. So obstacles are, all of these airlines have pretty, let's say, successful models, and they are now coming with a different product to a different audience, and I think will be a very interesting debate, understanding each one of them, what are their bets on how they want to place their products in which channels for which customers, and I think most important of all, what makes them different. I think that's what everyone here is trying to express, and we as Amadeus, with possibilities, a whole array of technology possibilities that we have, we want to make those differences very clear for the customer. I think that's our mission.
But speaking to the airlines here today, it's not really that they're going after a new type of customer as such. It's just it's a product which is created around customers that they, as I understand, already have. And just maximizing the yield out of that customer and giving that particular customer what they want. So I suppose, like all of the, like retail, like every other industry, there's different people, different customers go for different. So somebody wants to go with BA, they're not going to go on Ryanair's, but they're not going to switch over to Ryanair's overnight, or Pegasus or Vueling. So I think that's. Do you have any comments to make there, Gudis?
I mean, actually there is the customer is one. I mean, there's only one customer, but my travel purpose is changing. I mean, if I travel on leisure, then I'm a leisure segment for the airline. If I travel on business, then I'm a business customer for the airline. My needs are changing according to my travel purpose. If I'm a leisure customer, flying on leisure, then I may buy through online, I may fly with an airline or so. But when we first started to have this multiple channels, when we first wanted to introduce this into our model, we thought that customer, if it comes to the business travel, then will be acting with its company for the distribution side. Yes, the company is looking for affordable travel, but still they are working with the agencies or GDSs. So that's a drawback. Normally that customer, one flying on leisure, knows the flypgs.com and buying the tickets from us. But when it comes to business travel, then the need to buy it from the distribution-wise is changing. So that's where we had to be. But on GDSs, I think they have to be more dynamic, like the airlines, for example, to sell ancillaries. To sell ancillaries on GDSs are very difficult for the agency world. and we can, and ancillaries are very important for us.
Sure.
So it becomes limited for the airlines in our model to have more relationship with the GDSs because it's costly and the ancillaries are not there as easy as to get.
You're losing your ancillary.
Yes,
Yeah,
of course.
it's
So that's
exactly.
the primary focus. That's why on online and that's why on web and mobile, for example.
Yeah. Yes, Odysseus. I think that is over to you.
Yes. I think it is interesting or important to understand because sometimes it's like the technology is taking the blame for a business model issue. So it's like, well, the GDSs are not interested in ancillaries. The reality is the travel agencies are not interested on the ancillaries. And therefore, GDS being the channel for connecting airlines to travel agencies, therefore they're not taking, and what travel agencies are saying are that corporate customers are not interested in ancillaries. So, I mean, as good as marketeers that we can be, and we think that our vision of the world is the right one and the customer should take our product, sometimes when things get to the market, we get different reactions. I think we completely endorse the strategy of the airlines of unbundling the seat from the level of service. I think that that is something that we need to embrace as well, and I think we need to find the solutions with the travel agencies to make a productive use of that and making sure that we're creating value in the chain. So, but I think that we need to explain to everyone why this is good for the traveler. I think that's what we're missing. We're missing a little bit the story because the technology is there. I think we have all of the difficult letters here, the EMDs and the XML connectivities and the fare filing. And I can go on and on. Everything of the infrastructure is necessary to sell it. It's all there. The question is, do we have demand for it? And there is different demand from the travel agency community than on a controlled experience that the airlines can have on their website. And I think that's what we need to work together. That's
Sure.
my
I'd like to
view.
hear Aidan's view actually on this as well, please.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of this is quite practical. Travel agencies are not going to sit with a customer and debate whether they'd like a gourmet meal with a glass of champagne or a gourmet meal with a glass of red wine. I think it's proven that particularly corporate travel companies, TMCs, want to deal with the GDS because it's easier, because they can display all of the airlines. I think it's also proven that the low-cost carriers that participate in the GDS will sell a higher yield fare in the GDS. It's just it's a distribution channel. It's an access point to get to customers that are less price sensitive and more services orientated. I think, and I think, you know, the comment is correct that, you know, I don't think there is a demand for a lot of ancillaries. I think pre-selected seats, maybe bags would be the exception. I think the other thing is when an airline starts to deal directly with the customers, that's when they can react and present the best appropriate product to the customer. And I think that's when ancillary items will be relevant. So, you know, hypothetically, you could buy a high yield fare through Amadeus. That doesn't mean at time of check-in that Ryanair present me seat 1A. And it's Friday afternoon, and I want to get on the plane. I want to sit in 1A, because if I can sit in 1A, I'm going to be in my car and gone by the time the guy in 25C is figuring out, as somebody said earlier on, why the guy in front of him has 2 bags as opposed to 1 or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I really think it's, you know, we tend to make more of this, I think, and we tend to look at it from our problem, as in, oh, it's a distribution problem. My attitude is, there's consumers out there that will buy through a TMC and are less price sensitive, but they want a better service and they're happy to pay for that. And then the consumers that come direct, you know, we have to play the price game.
Kenny, it's quite interesting that Ryanair has been quite successful, you know, with the internet over the last, I don't know, 15 years now probably. But Ryanair had a relationship initially with GDSs and actually sold through all the GDSs. And then move to a model of no longer, but just going direct to the customer. Do you think is there ever going to be a situation where Ryanair or Pegasus or Vueling are able to create a direct relationship with the corporates in a way that they did and build a relationship with corporates, or is that very complex and difficult to achieve?
It's the opposite of complex and difficult. It's the opposite of complex. I think it actually, for some corporates, makes it a lot more simple. I just had lunch with an FD who's running a big, sizable business in Hertfordshire, who's near to Stansted, who is. I was
Guess
like,
who that is?
well, I was like, well, why would you not just deal with us directly? Why would you go from Hertfordshire all the way to Gatwick or Heathrow, just shoot Stansted? It connects to everywhere you want to go and just work directly with us. So I would say it makes life simple if you can just deal directly with us. We would have ambitions, and we will deal with corporates directly, as well as widen the distribution through GDS, because that's what we're going to do. So I think it doesn't. I think Aidan kind of described it well there. You know, sometimes we describe things like it's us and it's our problems. Well, it's about them being customers, and they've all moved on, and I think this industry needs to move on. And there's not, you know, it's not about we'll all do really, really well, and the airlines will do well, the GDS will do well, there's enough in it for the travel management companies, and then a load of people in between. In the end, it's a punter who needs to get from A to B. And more they want a straightforward and simple and low-cost service. That's what we believe, and we're trying to, you know, keep it as simple as possible. So yes, I always get asked, well, you're going to have to work with the TMCs, and what's their share going to be? But we're going to try. We know we've got a great product. We know we've got a great website, which corporates do use to book with us. We know partnering with the right GDSs will improve the distribution. We know we're going to flex the product and improve the service, but we don't want to do what everyone else does, and we don't need to. We're supply constrained rather than having a demand problem. So we will typically come at it in a different way. We will partner directly with large corporates, because if you're near Stansted Airport, we'll have 17 million customers coming in and out next year, so we are a great corporate travel provider. If you're near Bergamo Airport, if you're near Dublin Airport, we already are. We'll just get better at that and try to keep it simple with a distribution model that's as simple as we can possibly make it.
Good. Good. Are you dealing directly with Turkish corporates?
We have relationship. We have the direct relationship with the corporates. We don't have a big team for that within the company, but we have direct deals, and as long as they want to deal with us directly, then we're ready there. We can give XML, or they may be like acting like have their own tickets through our portal, agency portal. But it's not, I mean, not all the corporates are interested in this, because life is also easy for them if they use an agency in between. The accounting wise and or payroll wise, they don't want to keep this business within. If they want to keep it, yes, our first offer is this, because it's much more simple. I mean, without having the agencies in or the GDSs in between, cost wise. So that depends. I mean, we negotiate.
Good. Okay, I haven't heard any questions coming from the audience. I know there are a few microphones. I think there are 3 ladies with microphones circulating. So if you feel like asking a question, let us know. Any hands? Oh, great.
Hi. Can you hear me? Yeah. Linda Murphy from WNS. I'm a frequent traveller. I travel every week. I do like access to the lounge, I have to say. But my question is more, when I'm a leisure traveller, I can go onto the website and I can see a number of choices, and I can decide I'd rather pay an extra £10 because I want this, or an extra whatever because I want that. My travel desk will be booking that in the future, and how you're going to hear from me is I'm going to be voting on customer satisfaction. So for tickets that are going to be booked through a GDS on a low-cost carrier, for business travellers, how are you going to deal with the customer satisfaction that may not come back as well as it would have done in the past?
So hello. So first thing we are doing is, for corporate customers, we have bought companies, and we are strengthening our relationship on building solutions for them. And for their ability to book travel the way they want through their policy, and most importantly, what we're calling the trusted reviews. So we are creating the possibility of the corporate community to rate and rank the products that they have bought within the corporate group. So because within a big company, they can all share stories about what are the good hotels, what are the good airlines, when they had good experience, when they had bad experience. And I think it's much better when you actually can hear that from people that you work with, and actually you know that have used and experienced the service. So those are things that we are introducing to our system, and I think they're going to be available within the corporate space, within the community of travel agencies. So I think this is just the beginning of what you're saying, which is customers want to be in control, right? We're discussing a lot about what we want to do. On this world of merchandising and personalization, customers taking the control back, and who knows, maybe customers will be the one who will dictating how every airline should be actually providing a bid for your business, rather than we pushing offers to you to see how we're going to select. So we have seen this happening in many other of the retail industries. So I think that this level of flexibility will be, let's say, a big frontier that all of us will have to adapt to. So because the guy who adapts first is going to be the one that will be able to get your business. So I think that's where we're all heading to.
I mean, I'd probably make the obvious statement, which is once you start relying on an intermediary to start selling your product, you do lose control of, let's say, the final customer interaction. And you hand over an element of trust, let's say. So I think that's always going to be there. I think with technology now, digital technology, and being always connected, you can influence the relationship from when the customer makes the booking. So we work with Delta, so whether the booking is made on delta.com or a tablet or a mobile, if the booking is made in the GDS, then during the manage my booking phase and check-in, Delta will cross-sell other higher value products and services that are tailored towards that customer. So I think the idea that, historically, once the ticket is sold, you don't really engage with the customer until they arrive at the airport, I think that's gone. I mean, you always have the opportunity. But I would state that once you start allowing intermediaries resell your product, I think to some degree you've lost, you definitely have lost control. How much control is down to how you operate as a business.
I think we've talked a lot about distribution. Distribution is one point which is important in order to access higher yield customers, but it is equally important to also offer the product that you actually that the customer actually wants you to offer, in order to avoid just what you said. So, for example, assigned seating, we introduced that in 2004. Bundled fares together with GDS in 2007. Frequent flyer program, 2007. Actually, this year we introduced also different tiers with premium passengers, and here we honor the fact that they fly a lot with us, that they spend a lot of time either at the airport or in our aircraft. So we honor that, and they pay back with loyalty. And it's actually, well, I think it's probably going to be the next step. I heard you this morning talking about retention. So it's going to be probably a frequent flyer program. That is important. We offer a business class for passengers that request that. We have code share and internet agreements with long haul carriers. And here, what you need to make sure is that the product that you offer really fits the need of somebody that is not only traveling an hour and a half, but he's traveling an hour and a half and then 10 hours further to its final destination. You obviously need to offer high frequencies. We have 14 daily flights to Madrid. We have 12 daily flights to Paris. We have 8 daily flights to Seville, to Malaga, to Bilbao. We have 6 daily flights to Rome. We have 4 daily flights between Rome and Paris, and so on. That is very important that you do that. So it is not only about distribution, although we have spent a lot of time talking about distribution. It is the whole package.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think distribution is part of it, and no disrespect to any GDS. The GDS is doing its job really, really well when it's almost unseen and unheard of. No business traveler ever arrives to the airport and says, "Thank you, Amadeus, you got me here." What's important to you is the airport. Is it the airport you're flying from? The experience you have there. The airline you're flying with is very, very important. The airport you're flying to is important, and how far away that is to your business meeting, and how you get from that airport to the business meeting. The GDS has done a great job when the GDS is unseen and unheard of. and more the business traveler is self-serving. They will book a flight. I know CEOs who will book a flight on an app, who will change a booking on an app. So it's no longer about, please call Mrs. Jones in the travel department and tell her that I'm thinking of going to Madrid. Can she please sort it out and make sure they have my favorite Prosecco on board? It
takes too long, and
those
we're operating in a fast world.
Those days are over, and for some people who are still living in that world, good luck to you. That's great. Part of me is envious, but it's just changed. If you travel regularly, it's about efficiency, it's about cost, it's about reliability, and it's about self-serving yourself. No one wants to call. I wouldn't want to call I wouldn't call my PA and say, can you please call the travel management company to sort out a flight. I book my own flights because it's quicker for me to do that on the Ryanair app or on the website than pick up the phone to someone. That's just modern busy travel. So I think less conversation about the distribution, it's important, more about the product, but much more about the customer and what they're looking for and how that's changing, I think serves us all better.
Great, thanks Kenny. I think my time is Yes, wrapping up, okay. So, round of applause for all my panelists, they were great.